Okay, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite things about the film Obsession. If you haven't seen the film, I have a non-spoiler review on my channel, so you can please check that out, because there's going to be a lot of spoilers. Okay, first and foremost, let's talk about Bear's cat. Now, who knew that cat would be a through line throughout the whole film? When we first see Bear with his cat, it's like, oh, his cat died. But who knew that cat kinda, sorta opened the door for him to get close to Nikki? But then there's just a whole bunch of horrific things after the fact. Including lunch. It's like, oh my God. That was completely and horribly horrible. Second scene, Sarah in the car with Bear. You knew that it was going to end well for Sarah. You just didn't know how bad it was going to be for Sarah. And when I was watching that scene of her and Bear, and she was talking about, she was about to open her letter to see if she was accepted to go to college. Nikki popped up. And the way she popped up, it's almost like it came out of nowhere. But the use of the brick, because I was sitting there, it's like, how are they gonna, what can they do to her? Because I knew the budget was under $1 million. It's like, okay, you can't use CGI. There's something, you don't have stunt coordinators. Like, what can you possibly do to Sarah in this car? And the thing that was so scary about that scene was, it's very realistic. Like, if someone is demented enough, the way that Nikki used that brick against Sarah, that's the scary thing about that scene. It is very brutal, but it's very realistic. Another thing that I liked was actually the title Obsession. Each of those 4 characters were obsessed about something. Bear was obsessed with Nikki. Now, he wasn't doing anything crazy. He was just in love with Nikki, but he knew that she wasn't in love with him. But at first, he was obsessed about Nikki. Nikki, when she turned into Freaky Nikki, was obsessed with Bear. Ian was actually obsessed about Bear and Nikki's relationship. I was just obsessed with Bear and Nikki, period, from the very beginning. And Sarah was just obsessed about getting into college. So they all had their own level of obsession throughout the film. And I don't think most people talked about that. Another thing I liked was the duct tape on the door. Once again, a $750,000 budget. So there's so many things you can do with that budget, especially if it was a quick shoot. The idea of Nikki duct taping the door to almost trying to prevent Bear from going to work is ingenious. One of my favorite scenes ever of the past 10 years is still the scene of Get Out, where she stirred the cup and my man went into sleep and he was just floating in space. But that's like, you can use special effects and things like that. Was still masterful. But the use of the duct tape is just as masterful, because who would even think about saying like, okay, how can she keep him inside? She's little. Nikki's not that big. How can she possibly try to keep him inside? Oh yeah, let's duct tape the door. I can't even imagine Carrie Barker, who's the director, or one of his assistants, went to Home Depot and bought all this duct tape and started ringing them up. So what are you gonna do? Tape up somebody? Maybe. The use of the duct tape on the door is one of the best scenes ever in cinema. Absolutely amazing. Another scene I like is actually the ending. Carrie Barker had an original ending that he really wanted to do. And he thought that was going to be the ending. And the ending that we see in the movie, they only shot it once because he figured, well, let's do this other ending. I don't think I'm even going to use it, but let's see what it looks like. And that's the ending that they used because it was so emotional. It reminds me of Amy Irving at the end of Carrie, when she's dreaming and then she goes to the grave. And you know, if you haven't seen Carrie, I'm not going to spoil it for you. And also the original Friday the 13th, when the final girl was in the boat. And again, if you haven't seen the original Friday the 13th, I'm not going to spoil it for you. But it's those shocking endings when you feel like, oh, well, okay, the film's over, and it's not over. But the emotion that Inde Navarrette had at the end, it's almost, now you look at her like, okay, like what's going to happen now? Like, she's herself again. But because she was locked in her body watching all this stuff happen, she's seen a lot of horrific things. She's been through a lot of horrific things, which also brings up another scene, which is tragic in a lot of ways. It's like, it was a quick scene. It's like when Bear was having sex with Nikki, well, freaky Nikki, and she was just lying there lifeless, like almost like a real doll, like a fake doll. And he was just going at it, but she was just sitting there and there was a tear running down her eye. And that was like, oh my God, like, is she like possessed? And she wasn't possessed. It was all about this wish. But you felt sorry for her because seems like she was just trapped inside her body. And she's having sex with this guy that she likes, but she's not in love with. And there's nothing she can do to stop it because he's with freaky Nikki and not the real Nikki. And then there's the Jenga game. The Jenga game is actually ingenious just because you were anticipating something bad was going to happen. And something did happen, but in a comical way. We was watching, I was in the audience with my gal, and we was watching the scene, and then Bear pulled out the Jenga and he read his prompt, and the audience was like, he said, "Kiss the girl on your left," and the audience was like, "Oh, no, no, no!" And Nikki standing there looking like this, and you sitting there, it's like, oh my God, what's she gonna do? That whole scene was great too. Like that whole thing that she was writing, when she was reading off her phone, whatever she wrote, that was crazy. And it was like in the foreground, there was a girl leaning over, looking at her phone, like, what is she reading? And then Nikki was telling us, like, okay, I'll just kill everybody in here. There was a lot of Evil Dead in this film. There's a lot of humor. That's the thing about this film. There's a lot of humor in it. Like the scene where Bear is calling One Wish Willow people and seeing how he can break the curse. And he was talking to the guy on the phone. And I wonder if the guy on the phone was actually Carrie Barker. And it was funny because, I mean, the guy was cracking jokes with them. But then at the end of that, he said, oh, you want to talk to Nikki? She's right here. And all of a sudden you hear screaming. It's like, whoa, what was that? Which brings me back to the ending. I like that a lot of young kids was there because I think they're so used to gore and quick cuts and jump scares that they actually have to watch this film with character development, which is very much like Halloween. Like if you watch the original Halloween, or co-written by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, who was also the producer on that film, you knew that there was an action scene in the beginning with Dr. Loomis and Michael Myers, but there was a long character development. So I'm glad that kids were able to see a film that was a lot of character development. But at the end of that movie, there was nobody clapping. Like I clapped. I was like, oh my God, this is so good. But it was dead silent. And that told me that people were just like in shock what they just saw. This happened when I saw Boys in the Hood. It happened because Boys in the Hood was so great. You was just stunned by that film. I remember, what was it? Avengers. I always get those two mixed up. I think Infinity War, the first one, where the blip happened and everybody disappeared. And then, Peter Parker disappeared in front of Tony Stark, and it was just like everybody was gone for the most part, and people just sat there stunned. It's the same thing with this film. I think there was some kids walking out saying, what did we just see? Because it's absolutely amazing. So what do you guys think about Obsession? I think it's one of the best films of 2026. I said the same thing about Sinners last year. I was hopeful that Sinners would win the Oscar or at least be nominated for Golden Globes, and it did a whole lot better than that. But at the same time, Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler, they had put in work for years. So the idea of them winning an Oscar, you could see it. With this crew, with Corey Barker and his crew of actors, I don't know if they're going to get a lot of awards. I think they're going to I think they're going to win a bunch of independent awards, even though you have this other horror film, Backrooms, that could be major competition. But I think Obsession will win a lot of indie awards. It might be up for some Golden Globes, which would be great for a horror film. But by the end of the year, Obsession is one of the best films of 2026. So tell me, what is one of your favorite scenes from this film? And, oh yeah, shout out to Andy Richter, man. Andy Richter from Conan O'Brien, who plays Sarah's dad, was just walking around. It's like, wait, what's Andy doing? Oh, I love this film.